Look, I love a good podcast, okay? Like they're entertaining, educational, and thought-provoking. But then there are some podcasts that have me sitting there like, what are you actually saying right now? Who gave him the mic? Who approved this?
If I had the preference, I would prefer to have full control over my wife.
You can't divorce. I mean, that's not a real thing. What actually happens when people are getting divorced isn't these types of scenarios. It's like literally initiated, you'll probably know this, Dad, between 2/3 and 80% of the time by women. That should be outlawed. You legally actually should not be able to.
You guys are useless to society, so. If you're not contributing to a nuclear family, you're effectively useless to society.
So you're trying to compare yourself to me as if we're equal and we're not. Men and women are not the same at all.
We've lost the plot yet again. But I have been on the internet long enough to know that giving someone a microphone, a ring light, and an audience does not mean that they have anything worth saying. Not that I would know anything about that. Yes, the irony isn't lost on me. Hello beautiful people, my name is Capable and welcome to the Girlish Chat series, the safe space where we unpack the
madness of the internet, the trends, the delusions,
Who approved this one? Because TikTok will have you thinking this is normal and I'm here to say, is it dumb? Anyways, girl, let's chat about podcast culture, the rise of podcast bros, and why the most outrageous opinions always seem to get the loudest applause. So let me just give you some context first, because I always think that it's important to understand how we got here. Podcasting started as something genuinely beautiful, independent voices, niche communities, real conversations that mainstream media was not having. And at its best, it still is that. But then the algorithm got involved and money got involved. And suddenly podcasting became less about meaningful conversation and more about who can say the most provocative thing to get the most clicks. According to Edison Research, there are now over 4 million podcasts globally. 4 million. And with that kind of competition, a lot of hosts stopped asking, is this true or is this helpful? And started asking, is this going to go viral? The results? Clickbait titles, provocative thumbnails, unvetted guests being given massive platforms and hosts with absolutely no formal training, presenting themselves as experts on health, relationships, politics, and everything in between. And we're all just listening. Now let's talk specifically about what I am calling the podcast bro problem. Because there's a very specific type of podcast that has taken over and the damage that it is doing isn't small. We're talking about the Andrew Tates, the manosphere adjacent shows, the hosts who frame genuinely harmful views about women, relationships, and masculinity as just keeping it real or saying what everyone is thinking. And the audience eating it up is not just grown men, it's teenage boys, middle schoolers who are at the most impressionable point of their entire development. Teachers across the US have reported a significant increase in male students repeating sex rhetoric they have heard from podcast hosts, word for word. 7th grade teachers reporting an increase in boys making deeply inappropriate jokes they picked up directly from these shows. These are 12 and 13-year-olds, and the content is shaping how they see women, how they see relationships, how they see themselves. There is real power in the tongue. Words are not neutral. What gets said into a microphone to millions of listeners does not just disappear into the air. It lands somewhere, it plants something, and when the audience is young and still figuring out who they are, it plants very deep. And it's not just the manosphere podcast. The misinformation problem in podcast culture is broader than that, and honestly just as dangerous, because here's the thing about podcasts. They feel intimate. The conversational format makes you feel like you're just hanging out with a friend, and the sense of trust and closeness means listeners are far more likely to accept what they hear as truth rather than actually question it. Research shows that the casual, unscripted nature of podcasts actively encourages listeners to trust hosts in a way they would not trust a news anchor or a formal broadcaster. And so when a host with no medical background gives health advice, people follow it. When a host with no financial qualifications tells people how to invest, people act on it. When a host platforming a controversial guest frames a dangerous idea as just a different perspective, people absorb it. Freedom of speech is real and important, but freedom of speech is not the same as freedom from consequence. And what we are seeing in podcast culture is the weaponization of that phrase, using free speech as a shield to avoid any accountability for the real world impact of what is being said. I always think about young people when I talk about stuff like this because it's no secret that something just feels different about the way our generation and the ones coming after us are developing. And I want to be careful here because I'm not here to shame anyone or point fingers. I genuinely think that most of us are doing our best in an incredibly overwhelming information environment. But when the loudest voices in a young person's life are unaccountable podcast hosts telling them that certain people are less than, that vulnerability is weakness, that the world owes them something, that shapes a worldview quietly, consistently, over hundreds of hours of listening. And the scariest part is that it doesn't feel like indoctrination because it sounds like a conversation. It sounds like two guys just chatting. It sounds relatable and funny and real. That is exactly what makes it so effective and so hard to push back against. There's a reason why media literacy, knowing how to critically evaluate what you consume, is one of the most important skills anyone could have right now. Now, I want to be clear, this is the Girl Let's Chat series. We do nuance here, okay? Not all podcasts are the problem, not even close. There are incredible podcasts being made right now, shows that are genuinely changing lives, platforming important voices, having conversations that need to be had. The problem is not the medium. The problem is the lack of accountability within it. The problem is that anyone can say anything to millions of people with absolutely no vetting, no fact checking, no editorial oversight, and then hide behind freedom of speech when called out. And I say this as someone sitting here with a ring light and a microphone myself. The responsibility that comes with a platform is real. Whether your audience is 10 people or 10 million, words matter. And the people saying them need to start acting like it. Real quick sidebar, I also have a video on the problem with filming strangers in public that I think you will find really interesting. And grab my free fashion worksheets and check out my fashion guide, Shop Your Closet. It's all about creating new outfits from what you already own without shopping. All linked down below in the description. So, what do we do with all of this? Because I'm not here to just drop a problem in your lap and just leave. First, be a critical listener. Just because something is said confidently doesn't make it true. Just because someone has a big audience doesn't make them qualified. Ask yourself, who is this person? What are their credentials? Who benefits from believing this? Second, pay attention to how content makes you feel. Good podcasts leave you feeling informed, challenged, expanded. Problematic ones, they leave you feeling angry, superior, or like certain people or groups are your enemy. That feeling is a signal worth paying attention to. Third, and this one is for the parents, the older siblings, and the mentors. Talk to the young people in your life about what they are consuming. Not in a preachy way, goodness, please don't do that. Just in a curious way, ask them what podcasts they listen to, what they think about them. Open the conversation, and finally, support the good ones. Share the podcasts that are doing it right because the algorithm responds to what we engage with. And if we want better content, we have to actively choose it. So let me know in the comments, where do you draw the line between a host just sharing an opinion and a host actually causing harm? Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the ending of today's video. If you liked it, please make sure to give it a like and make sure to subscribe for some different types of videos every week because we don't stick to the same videos here. I get bored easily.